I worked for many years in Africa, mainly in Togo in West Africa, with adult literacy. And now I'm running Aleph, a Swedish NGO, Adult Learning and Empowerment Facilitators. We work with adult education for people who have not been able to go to school or who had to drop out for different reasons before learning to read and write. So our focus is on poverty alleviation and empowerment. My greatest accomplishment, well, I think it's starting and building up Aleph as an organization. We started 10 years ago, and we're still there. And we've seen over 8,000 people learn to read and write, and to step in and take over their own lives and step out of poverty. So that is something I'm very happy about. So you can't teach them like you teach children. You have to involve them in the learning process and lift up their own knowledge and experience. So in the Aleph method, you start every lesson by a very short text. And in the first level, the group leader writes the text on the blackboard. And it's a text about the life of the participants, something that could have happened to any one of them. When Mary's baby was 4 days, had diarrhea for 4 days old, she died. And the text doesn't give a solution. It doesn't tell people what to do. From this text, when they have read it together, they learn one letter, and they look for that letter in the text and how to pronounce it and what it looks like. And then they discuss the text. Do you have any similar experiences? So this draws people out to start talking about themselves. And everywhere in the world, people love talking about themselves. And it helps them express their frustrations, their problems, their worries, and share it with the others in the group. The second question is, what's behind this? Why does it happen? And of course, somebody may say, well, the baby died because of magic. But then maybe somebody else said, well, when I went to the clinic, they said that babies get diarrhea because the baby bottle is dirty, you have to boil it. And so we rely on this group of adult people to analyze these situations and help each other understand why things are the way they are. And the third question is, so what do we do about it? And they start coming up with solutions. Then they dictate a text, which the group leader writes on the blackboard about what they discussed. And usually it's about the decisions they made together. And then they look for the letter they just learned in this text and for the letters they learned in previous lessons. And after about 15 lessons, they can all read. And then they just add more and more letters until they read fluently. But what amazes me is that then after 2 hours of this, they go home and they do all these things they said they would do. And to me, that's just fantastic. It's mostly women who participate in these groups. They're usually mothers. They have an enormous responsibility for their families, and they start changing things. They start cleaning the baby bottle, the kitchen utensils. They start washing hands before eating. They become more equal in the marriage. They start businesses so they can gain more money. They change their behavior in many different ways. And of course, it's on a grassroots level, but when you have enough people doing this, it builds up to an enormous change in society. So that's very briefly Aleph's method. We go on with mathematics and in the third level, this 3-level course, in the third level, they learn how to create a civil society organization, a cooperative or a business or something, and how to run it. I think there are different levels of that. I'm a very pragmatic person, so you know, if I see something that's broken, I think, well, is there a way to fix it? And I've seen how the problem of illiteracy is a major problem, and there's no way we can eradicate poverty if we don't address illiteracy. And I happen to know how to do that. So I want to fix what's broken. I think on a deeper level, what motivates me is my Christian faith. I believe that God's created every person for a decent life. He loves them and he wants them to become all that's inside them to become. And so Christian love, I think, is my greatest deep driving force. There have been many challenges. Well, maybe the last big one was the most important, because that's what led to starting Aleph. I was working for 2 other Swedish NGOs part-time, and in one of them I had limited contract. So the deal was that when that limited contract was finished, I would start working full-time for the other NGO. But rather suddenly I was asked to leave because my boss and I didn't see the way we worked in the same way. I had ideas that he didn't approve of, and so we had to go separate ways. It was very hard. It was several other difficulties struck me at the same time. My mother was becoming very ill with Alzheimer's, which was very painful. There was another private conflict which was taking a lot of energy out of me, and which was very saddening. So it was like everything broke down at the same time, and I was feeling extremely lonely. And of course, it took a couple of years to navigate through this, but I kept exploring how to go forward. In Sweden, when you get out of work, you go to the job agency. But if you're 55, they just laugh at you because you're no longer employable, because everybody wants to employ young people. So I realized if I can't be employed, I have to be self-employed. I tried, what can I do? Well, all I could do was adult literacy. I tried to become a consultant. But in development, when you're a consultant, you get called in to evaluate something that's already been done. And I wanted to be in at the beginning. Yeah, I tried working as a consultant, but I was always asked to go and evaluate projects that had already been completed. And once I was in Niger, I had been evaluating a large program which wasn't working very well. And at the end, we sat there all together, the project staff and I asked, well, what have you learned from our evaluation? Then they all kept talking about their failures. And then the project leader looked at me and he said with tears in his eyes, Helen, why didn't they send you to us at the beginning? So we could have done it right from start. And that's actually when I decided to start Aleph, because I wanted to assist those fantastic local organizations who have so much vision and expertise in the local culture, but they need to have the expertise in how to do it, how to work pedagogically. And so that's what kicked me into starting Aleph thing. I'm not let in on the secret that all the others have. I will become very passive, and I will be able to achieve nothing because I start from very, very low self-confidence. When I see these people getting together, often very young girls, a young girl in Africa is not supposed to speak her opinion. Here they suddenly are in these groups and people say, well, what do you think? Tell about your experiences. What's your suggestion for a solution? They get to talk and they find that the others listen to them. And that develops them enormously. And then it's this cracking the code. Aha, that's how you do it. That's how you read and write. It's not magic. Everybody can learn it. And all of a sudden you're on the inside. And I hear people say, now nobody can cheat me anymore. And of course, it's not true. You can still be cheated even if you're literate, but it's an enormous step forward to not being cheated. And if you exude self-confidence, people tend to cheat you less. So that's maybe to me, the psychological development goes very much hand in hand with learning the actual skills of reading and writing. We need to lift people to understand that there's somebody. That's another quote. Before I was nobody, now I'm somebody, is another thing they keep telling me. And they put money together, they learn a trade, or they start some sort of business. We visited these ladies who were baking. They were baking cakes to sell in the schools, and they found that they told us when we were there that their major expense was eggs. So they said, we got some chickens, they said. And they led us around the corner, you remember? And there were a building with 200 chickens. So they were actually having an almost industrial scale egg business, which started from their little bakery. And we've seen many dozens of cooperatives like this who have started businesses. They're having problems now because of the corona crisis, with the lockdown. The schools are closed, transports closed down, but they still have the skills, and they still have their communities, so they can start it up again and keep going. No, I was an extremely shy child. My first 6 months in school, I didn't open my mouth. I just sat there and I did like this when my teacher asked me a question. And she teased me and she said, is it left shoulder yes, right shoulder no? Or how do I understand what you mean? Because I didn't dare to speak. I didn't have very many friends as a child in school. Sometimes I was even bullied. But I had discovered that people write books, and I loved books. So I decided I would be an author and that I would get the Nobel Prize in literature. So yes, I did have big dreams. That didn't come true. Because I've come many times into situations where I feel that I'm not taken seriously because I'm a woman. I get sort of I become a sort of second-rate person. And my ideas, my thoughts are not taken seriously. So that's definitely been a challenge. I hope the world is changing, and that women are taken as seriously as men. Colored immigrant woman who's been tremendously successful in Sweden, and she talks about how to kindly resist those techniques that other people use to dominate you by just asking a kind questions. I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean when they're trying to flatten me. And you just charm it away by asking them to be a little bit more specific when they're rude to you and so on. And I'm not sure if I'm successful, but I try to apply that method, and it's actually the Aleph method. Don't make a lot of statements. Ask questions. Please let me know more exactly what you mean. That's a very good way of diffusing somebody who's being rude. I think acknowledging one's vulnerability is a key, and realize that the whole world is made up of vulnerable people. I'm just like, if I'm vulnerable, I'm just like one of all the others, because that's the way we all are. So it's not something to be ashamed of. And then I think to shift the focus. It's not about what I want to become. It's about what can I do in this world that we own together. What's the difference I can do to the world, to people around me? What's my part in it? Love yourself and then shift the focus to the world.
Wow, thank you. It's a great quote.
I think also think like this: what would be the worst thing that could happen? And probably that's I will fail. Okay, so what? Try something else then. You tried and you failed and you gained some experience, so try again. And don't look back too much. Look forward and say, okay, what's next? What can I do now? What I have seen is we're all heavily impacted by everything around the disease. I mean, it's extremely tragic how many people have become sick and died. In Africa, the lockdowns have been very, very hard on people. People are still starving because they couldn't go to their jobs. They lost their whole income. In Congo, people were told to stay at home for 2 weeks, not go outside the house, but they have no running water. And so water runs out after 1 or 2 days. There was no food to buy. People walked on foot to neighboring villages and tried to steal food out of other people's plantations. So it's been very, very hard. In Sweden, we have had very many sick people and very many deaths. We're number 8 in the world on deaths, but there's been very little lockdown. And of course, this correlates. So what can we do? Well, I think stay calm and keep physical distance, but get closer emotionally. Who can I call? Who could I meet for a walk at the appropriate distance? Use the opportunity when we all feel so vulnerable to draw close to each other. and to do good. I mean, as I said, I'm pragmatic. If there's a need, try to fix it. And I think the world's need right now is for, oops, now I disappeared.
No, we can see you.
Am I still there? Okay,
Yes,
good.
yes.
This is just my screen. I think people's needs right now is like the need we always have, to know that somebody sees me and somebody loves me. And that's what we need to meet in each other. Well, the first thing is to start, but the second thing is to persevere. When I started Aleph, I decided I'll give it 3 years. I'm not going to give up before those 3 years are over. No matter what happens, I'm not giving up until after 3 years. Now, to be honest, I have given up at least once a month for 10 years. I start again and I try again and I try again. So I think perseverance, if you really believe in your vision, then go for it. Don't give up.